Today, Kaylee is taking the minutes. Hello, and welcome to Setting the Record Queer, a podcast where queer people talk about the pursuits and communities they love. This is Taking the Minutes 5. It's about Luigi's Mansion 3. My name's Kaylee, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm your host. And before I kind of get into this, I kind of want to put a brief note here that I think with some of the past Taking the Minutes, we've gone big scope. We've talked about, like, managing communities and failure, and, I'm happy with a lot of these episodes, but I think we've done a bad job up to this point kind of demonstrating the scope of Taking the Minutes, because Taking the Minutes is meant to be a just kind of ramble about stuff that's important to us or that we like, and so I decided to dial it back in here. I played the video game Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Nintendo Switch this week, these past couple weeks, and I enjoyed it, and I'm gonna talk about it, and you're gonna listen to me talk about it unless you don't want to, but I'm not gonna spoil the game or anything like that. I'm gonna stay spoiler light, but I'm gonna kind of just talk about what I enjoy about the game. This isn't going to be a full-scale critique. I definitely could be a little more critical, but it's not what Taking the Minutes is. I'm just going to talk about my experiences with the game and how I enjoyed them, and it was a thing that I enjoyed recently. So, if you've never played the Luigi's Mansion series before, basically, Luigi is in a haunted area. Usually, Mario and or friends have been kidnapped, and it's up to Luigi to vacuum up ghosts with a supernatural vacuum cleaner made by a mad scientist, and vacuum them up until he saves his brother while looting the mansion for as much money as possible. Now, Luigi's Mansion 1 is kind of a special game to me. I played that game so much as a kid. It was one of my most formative childhood games, so I've spent a long time If you're wondering, I've never actually beaten it. In the original Luigi's Mansion, Big Boo was so hard for me as a kid that I couldn't get past that. I must have spent dozens of hours dying to Big Boo at the age of, 10. I don't know when Luigi's Mansion 1 came out. I don't remember. But I loved that game as a kid. A few years ago, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon came out for the 3DS, and I couldn't get into it. The 3DS just wasn't great for controls of Luigi's Mansion. Just the worst stick was a big problem, I think. And Luigi's Mansion 1 had one big mansion to explore, and Luigi's Mansion 2 had like 4 small mansions to explore. And as a result, a big part of the first game, the exploration, was just kind of lost, and I tried multiple times. I couldn't get into it. I never made it past halfway through that game, which actually makes Luigi's Mansion 3, despite a lifelong love of this series, the first game in this series that I've actually beaten. Luigi's Mansion 3 takes place in a big hotel. It is more separated than Luigi's Mansion 1 because you have to take the elevators in the hotel to get to from floor to floor, so they're not actually connected, which is one of my criticisms about the game. But the hotel setting, I feel, really gave it a lot of things it could do, and I won't get into too much specifics for spoilers, but as you get up the hotel, you get more and more this is a little weird to have this to this extent in a hotel, but it's a hotel, so it doesn't feel out of place to have themed suites where why are we in a pirate ship? Well, there's a pirate ship theme suite, and that's a thing that exists in real hotels, and I really like how the lower floors of the hotels, the ones early in the game, they're much more normal hotel, and it kind of gets more and more out there as you go up, and it never feels out of place. They've added a couple more features since Luigi's Mansion 1 that I really liked. So, in the first game, your tools were pretty simple. You had a flashlight, and you would shine a light at ghosts, and then you'd be able to suck them up with the vacuum cleaner. 2 added a few more tricks that were cool tricks. They work a lot better in 3, in my opinion. You have a ghost light flashlight that shows hidden objects. You have a plunger that you can stick to things, and you can blow out of your vacuum cleaner, which you can also do in Luigi's Mansion 1, but that was mostly unused because there were a fire and ice power-up that had been cut that was more relevant for. But this one has you blowing out of the thing much more, and if you've seen any of the advertising, you'll know that Luigi's Mansion 3 also added in our friend GUIG, who is Luigi made out of ghost goo. You can switch back and forth between Luigi and GUIG, and run around, take turns. A lot of puzzles require you to use both. You can even play with two people, one playing as Luigi and one playing as GUIG. And it doesn't seem like that would be that big of a deal, especially because they're pretty much the same. But GUIG has two special properties, the first of which is like GUIG can like squeeze through grates and stuff, because he's made of goo, so he can go like through bars or fall through like manholes and stuff, or grated manholes specifically. But the trade-off is that GUIG isn't waterproof, so if you touch water as GUIG disappears. And you would think that like, okay, it just seems annoying to move back and forth between them, but honestly, it made for some pretty good puzzles. There were a few segments where it got kind of tedious. There's one where you have to kind of navigate in a float across water as Luigi while like opening gates as GUIG, and that one was a little slow and could get annoying. And my one other criticism I'm gonna throw in here is that cutscenes could have been implemented better. For some weird reason, you can skip cutscenes that you see repeatedly, so you can skip door opening animations, you can skip using a specific power-up, and you can skip the game over screen cutscenes, and that's fine, but there were a couple bosses that took me a few tries, and it was kind of annoying to go back in and have to watch the same cutscene over and over every time I wanted to refight the boss. Especially there was one boss towards the middle of the game that I had to look up how to beat it. I admit I couldn't figure out how to beat the king. If you've played the game, you'll know which one I'm talking about. But yeah, I really enjoyed going back and getting like kind of a fresh entry in a game that, at least for me, because I didn't really get into Dark Moon, it was great to kind of have that nostalgia burst, have this game from my childhood come back and be like, hey, here's more of it, This may not be a perfect game. And I think my opinion of the game is kind of colored by the fact that I was kind of posed to like it. If it felt anything like the game I grew up with, I was probably going to get nostalgic for it, and I would still enjoy it, but it's still really nice just to have something from your childhood. It's kind of nice just to get to revisit some old things from when you were growing up. I don't know how this game would stack up to someone who's never played Luigi's Mansion 1, but I think it's a fun game, and I recommend it. And yeah, I think it's important to kind of lean back into things we like now and again. People often like to bash on people like, oh, nostalgia goggles. And yeah, I can definitely see, to a certain point when people are maybe not aware that they're, biased by nostalgia and asserting their thing as, their opinions as fact and telling you no good video games have come out since I was 12. I listen to the same music forever, and I think that I'm better than you because of my opinions, and like that can get frustrating, but I think it's also a pretty worthwhile thing to strap on those nostalgia goggles from time to time and just have a nice, enjoyable moment. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. This has been Taking the Minutes. Our episode with Jackal Girl and Magic the Gathering judging will come out at its normal time next week. We've actually already recorded that one. Before I recorded this, as a little continuity fun fact, by which I mean the continuity of, I guess, just time, like real continuity. So yeah, look forward to that one. I thought it went, I had a great time talking to Jackal. I know Alexis did too. So look forward to that. And yeah, hey, try to take some time if you can to dive into something nostalgic. It's worth doing. Bye!